The world of creation starts with life. Living beings originated from this very life. The inhalation and exhalation of respiratory system of the living beings made possible the existence and spreading of life. In the beginning, there was no idea of spirituality among humans and other beings. First of all, inquisitiveness came into being to awaken the soul and lead it to spirituality. This very inquisitiveness brought all to the path of quest. For this search of quest, great divine souls appeared who imparted new knowledge to the world. Actually, in the beginning of creation, human beings had no sense of shame. They were like beasts. At that time, they very easily would express their physical disabilities and sensuality. Later, when they grew shameful, they tried to restrain themselves and built up a civilized society. As they came into the touch of divine souls, they realized that all the truths are established in life. They tried to find out relief and refuge to be free from all the natural calamities. Through respiration, the cleansing of limbs and all other physical activities can be completed. So they divided the respiratory system into 3 parts, which originally came from the body. The inhaling is defined as Mahadev, which is imagined as the origin of divinity. Everything which is truth and honest is called Mahadev. After that, everything which is taken and through which the mental structure is created is imagined to be Brahma. Because everything in this world is thought to be Brahma, and the outcome of Brahma is also called Brahma. They began to find out a way to salvation, to bear the mental expression of happiness, misery, and earn a mental stability. They defined this stability as Vishnu. That means who can intake the poison and show the world a path of incarnation. The idol worship had no place in the traditional society. Traditional society means the time or era which the preachers had defined as Satya Yuga. The time had been divided into 4 eras. First Satya Yuga, second Treta, third Dwapar, and fourth Kali Yuga. Satya Yuga means the era where truth and eternity exist together, where there is no difference or infighting. The Treta Yuga starts when people try to ignore the divinity for earning the power and tendency drives them to inferiority. Dwapar Yuga means the origin of duality, where the Savior and the Creator are separated. The Kali Yuga begins when the respiration becomes very rapid and that demands become uncontrollable. The divine souls would know the art of resurgence and thus brighten the light of life. All these souls would be known to be Munis and Rishis, that is, saints and sages. Rishi means one who would uplift the creation and dedicate himself for the progress of the society and individual. Muni means who is engrossed in himself to earn divinity through meditation. For the preservation of the creation and protecting the environment from the mental decay, the holy souls decided to introduce worshipping of nature through different rites and rituals. As the worshipping of nature started, the gods Surya, Chandra, Vayu, Agni, Varun, that is, the sun, the moon, the air, the fire and the water, came into being. Next, it was seen that human beings began to torture the animals and partake them as food. Because of this, to bring a balance in the world and to restrain this cruelty, they made those animals mount of different gods and goddesses, so that the animal world could be saved from extinction. In this way, through the worshipping of the nature, the divine souls began to follow the path of yogic meditation. During this meditation, they could see different yogic idols according to their posture, and giving them imaginary human form, began to worship them as gods and goddesses. After that, they tried to follow the rigid path to transform themselves into those gods and goddesses and created mythological stories about them. After the continuous decay, human society would face the downfall during Kali, when they would hanker after the grandeur and splendor of material world. They would not hesitate to show their beast-like instinct and face physical extinction. They would like to grab everything, even after losing all. That's why everyone in this era would be quarrelsome. To save them from the critical situation, the appearance of divine soul is absolutely necessary, who will save them from destruction and death. This destruction can be resisted only through love. That is why Bodhisattva Buddha, who appeared with his message of love to make everyone love each other and lead all to the path of salvation after removing all the superstitions and injustice. He also tried to awaken the souls by breaking the rigidity of society. The humiliation of soul by another soul can never be agreed. The turning point took place. Buddha was born.
Buddhism, in the general sense of the terminology, it is a way of life, way of living a good life, following the precepts, keeping your mind in balance. That basically sums up Buddhism. And Buddhism as a whole is a vast subject, and for many it is a religion, for many it is a philosophy, and for many it is a way of living a good life.
Jaya Jaya Yogi, Jaya Jaya Nath, Jaya Jaya Buddha, Jaya Jaya Dhamma, Jaya Jaya Sangham, Jaya Jaya Buddha, Jaya Jaya Dhammam, Sarvam Jnanam Samahitam, Namami Buddham, Namami Buddham, Namami Buddham, Tvam Paramam Gatim.
He said, this is the path that I have been following, and by following this path I have achieved Buddhahood. And if you also want to achieve what I have achieved, it is open to you, but this is the path that you have to follow. So the Buddhahood that we say is a matter of investigation. It is open to everybody. He did not find another religion. What he said was, you purify your mind and reach that stage of perfection where you can also attain Bodhi. Purification of the mind is, first of all, the most basic thing is follow the precepts, the vows, the moral vows, for which Panchasila. Panchasila is the basic foundation which everybody, each and every human being have to follow, which are not to kill, not to steal, not to have sexual misconduct, not to tell lies, and not to indulge in intoxicating drinks or intoxicants. So these are the 5 basic vows which one has to follow. And then these vows that one is trying to practice, that is the physical aspect of abstinence. To abstain myself from doing anything wrong, that is the physical part. But we find that our mind is very vulnerable. It's a very soft thing, and it is always jumping from here to there like a monkey, and it always wants to do all those things which we are not supposed to do. And therefore the Buddha says that tame your mind and train your mind. So to follow those vows, those moral vows, we have to train our mind. We have to tame our mind. So this taming and the training of the mind can only be done through meditation. And in this case the Buddha said, practice the Vipassana meditation. Vipassana, a specific form of meditation. So Vipassana meditation is to see inside, by ourselves, through ourselves, for ourselves. And the Buddha says that this fathom long body of ours is like a laboratory. Whatever chemical and biological reactions are happening outside, all these reactions are also happening inside our body. It is just that due to our ignorance we don't observe those sensations that are happening inside our body. So we need to observe those sensations and observe the impermanence nature of those sensations. So what we find out is that later on we will, after going through a long course of meditation, we find that everything in this universe is impermanent. So this impermanence nature of nature causes all the suffering. People like always, when they start facing something good, they expect that good should continue permanently, but that is not the cause, not the case. So he says that once we understand the impermanence nature of things, so it helps us to come out of ego, to get rid of the ego, the I. And through all these, when we come out of ego, we kick out the ego, we come out of the I, the importance of the I, then when that happens when you start gaining wisdom. So the other word of enlightenment is wisdom, pragya. So when pragya develops in us, that is bodhi. So that is Buddhahood.
There was no place for casteism in Buddhism. Those who had no shelter in Brahmanism took shelter under the banner of Buddhism. Gradually, the people of the whole country began to follow Buddhism, as it showed the real religion in which truth had been established. The main object of the religion is to attain enlightenment in the life through self-satisfaction and self-knowledge. Because Buddha himself was against the idea of idol worshipping. As a result, the Hinduism accepted by the people was on the verge of destruction. After the Mahanirvana of Buddha, his consolidated Sanghrams broke into pieces as a result of infighting for power. Worshipping of many gods and goddesses appeared in Buddhism. The Buddhist monks began to disrespect and molest the nuns. Buddhism became panic-stricken and divided into two sects, the Mahayanas and Hinayans.
Buddha statues developed much later in the 1st to 2nd century AD. Even during Ashoka's time, who came 250 years after the Buddha, even during that time we don't find any Buddha statues. Even during the life of the Buddha, there were certain times that the people wanted the Buddha statue. There are stories, but Buddha then and there rejected the very idea of statue. So the Buddha said that if there is anything at all the people need, it is not the statue which will help them. The statue will not help them. Then Ananda told Buddha that still the people whose mind are weak, they want something to fall back on for assurance, for a sort of mental support. So that's why it is, I think, necessary. The Buddha said that if at all it is necessary, then the only object that can help them is not the statue. The only object that can help them is the Bodhi tree. The Bodhi tree under which I sat in meditation. It gave me shadow, the shade that was necessary, and I attained enlightenment. And it is that Bodhi tree under which thousands and thousands of people can sit and meditate and gain the mental peace and harmony. So it is the Bodhi tree that will help us and not the statue.
But Buddhists believe that Hinayans actually means Sravakyan, which refers to the group of Buddhists who follow Buddha's teachings through hearing traditionally. The worshippers who want self-progress must maintain purity of body and mind sincerely. Purity is the first and foremost word of meditation. That is why one needs changes of habit. Shil means to restrain oneself sincerely, to refrain from all dishonesty and mischief. Until the spiritual vision is gained, no one can maintain proximity with truth. That is why the worshipper first of all keeps his mind pure. A person with a peaceful mind should never cast a look towards the material things or changes, just like a tortoise, which can extend its head outward, but as soon as it gets the glimpse of any danger, takes its head inside. There only comfort and peace in meditation. So whenever they think it necessary, they can roll up their head inside their body and their mind remain tranquil. The only restlessness they show is for their students and disciples. He must be a real good person from both inside and outside. He must learn the teaching of virtue and vice from the teacher or Buddha. After this, one can identify the vice and restrain oneself from performing the evil deeds. A good man cannot be judged only by his outward behavior. The real good person is one who maintains goodness both in mind and in all his activities. Steps of our series. So long many books on Buddha's life and message have been published, so question may arise, what is the utility of writing a new one on the same topic? Actually, there are many contradictions about this religion. I am trying to focus on the same subject from different angles. To accept my view is your choice. I have tried to focus on Buddha's biography and religious views differently. My points are as follows: turning a Prince Siddhartha into Gautam Buddha, enlightenment, preaching Buddhism, foundation of Buddha Sangha or monastery, the causes of decline of Buddhism after his death, and division of Buddhism in Hinayans and Mahayans, and explanation about their religion. In olden times, millions of people had embraced Buddhism and assembled under the same banner, but foreign invasions and religious conservatism impeded the spread of Buddhism and led it to decline. Gradually, Buddha and Buddhism had almost become oblivious. Still today, no one can explain it properly, and his message had been lost. The teachings and the mode of life of the Vedic Hindu religion, which prevailed before Buddha, had also been lost. At present, the scientific teaching which we have been inclined to also existed during the time of our great epics, the Ramayana, and the Mahabharata. But ignoring those golden ideas, we are trying to pamper ourselves, accepting other views from abroad. At one time, when Hinduism was at its peak, it began to be patronized and directed by Dedan monarchy. The kings and the emperors took grasp of their power and began to indulge in the Vedic Brahmanism, which slowly became rigid and useless and led people to the worse, and thus ultimately contradiction appeared. Hence arose the question of adopting new religion. In fact, Prince Siddhartha, living the life of splendor, embraced sannyas in search of real truth.
Gacchami Dhammam Saranam Gacchami Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
Buddha was born in Shakya dynasty. First of all, I want to describe the Shakya dynasty. Before we go through the life story of Siddhartha, we must know about the Shakya dynasty. In olden times, there lived a king in the West Saket named Sujat. He had 5 sons and 5 daughters. Though he maintained a happy marital life, he got attracted to a prostitute named Jayanti. A child was born to them named Jayantya. Being very much pleased with her, the king wanted to fulfill her wish. Jayanti, being instigated by a learned woman, prayed to the king to send his 5 sons to exile and make her son the king. The shocked king fulfilled her wish by sending the princes and their mother to exile. The subjects could not approve the injustice of the king, so they also followed the queen and the princess. They decided to live in the forest to the north of the Saket at the foothills of Himalayas. The king of Kashi and Kaushal gave them shelter, but after some time he apprehended that they might capture his kingdom, so he drove them away from his kingdom. The princes got shelter in the ashram of sage Kapil in the remotest part of the Himalayas. They began to live there and lead a normal life among themselves. That place later got renowned as Kapilavastu. When King Sujat got to know about their lifestyle, he asked his ministers and learned persons whether their relation were legal or shak. They all declared that they were shak. From then onwards, they came to be known as Shakya. Hastishishak was one of the sons of Sujat. He had a son called Singhahanu. Singhahanu had 5 sons named Shuddhodhana, Saptodhana, Dhautadhana, Suklodhana, and Amritodhana, and 2 daughters named Amita and Pramita. Some years later, Shuddhodhana, the son of Singhahanu, became the king of Kapilavastu, and he got married to Mayadevi, the daughter of Anjana. Their son Siddhartha or Gautama was born. According to the Buddhist scripture, Gautama was born in Lumbini and raised in Kapilavastu, which might be situated in present-day Tilaurakot, Nepal, or Piprawa, India.